This lesson is going to be about tenths applied to the major scale. And everything I do here is going to be major and minor tenths. Okay, and I'm going to do it in the key of G, and it's a movable, patterns that you can apply to any key. And as we're talking about this, we're talking about the construction of the major scale. So the major scale in the key of G is down here on the bottom: G, A minor, B minor, C, D, E minor, F sharp, we'll call that diminished, and then G. And we'll talk about the F sharp diminished, which is actually called a 7 minor 7, or F sharp minor 7 flat 5. But the reason I showed it as a diminished right there is we're not talking about sevenths, we're just talking about tenths, and it's a 2-note chord. So, this gets treated just a little bit differently. But anyway, so those are the chords of the G major scale, and the G is the tonic, and we'll call that the 1. And so if you use the numbers, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back to 1. And there's a specific construction of a major scale, which is, well known, but we'll talk about it anyway. The formula for the major scale is there's a whole step between 1 and 2. There's a whole step between 2 and 3. There's a half step between 3 and 4. There's a whole step between 4 and 5. There's a whole step between 5 and 6. A whole step between 6 and 7. And finally a half step between 7 and back to the 1. So if you had to play that on the G string, starting on G on the E string, in a straight line, you'd see from G to A, which is 1 to 2, there's a whole step between G to A, because there's a note between it. Between 2 and 3, there's a whole step. Between 3 and 4, there's a half step. Between 4 and 5, there's a whole step. Between 5 and 6, there's a whole step. Between 6 and 7, there's a whole step. And finally, 7 to 1, there's a whole step. And so the way we get the notes, the chords that go to that scale, the 1 is always major. If you're talking about diatonic chords, which are the chords that fit into the notes of the major scale and the minor scale. The 2 is always minor. Again, if it's diatonic chord. There's plenty of times when you'll see a major 2 chord, but it has to have one note altered. Okay, so, but naturally, the way the notes naturally lay, if you play the chords in the keys, in the major keys, the 2 is always minor, the 3 is always minor, the 4 is like 1, it's major, the 5 is major, the 6 is minor, the 7 is minor, and we're going to talk again about the minor 7 flat 5, and the 1 is major. So overall, the 1, the 4, the 5 are all major. The 2, the 3, and the 6 are all minor. And the 7 has its own kind of like own universe there. Okay, so playing a 10th is just like the 3rd. So G, the 3rd in the chord G, is a B, and that's a 3rd. And all we're going to do is just put it up an octave, and that gives us our 10th. So you can see the shape there. I'm using 2 and 4. But you could also use 1 and 3. Or yeah, I use 2 and 4, but you can use different fingerings. Okay, now that's a major 10th. We call that a major 10th. If you drop this note back a half step, that gives you a minor 10th, okay? Okay, so in the key of G, the 10th on G is a major. We've already discussed that. All right, if you go up to the A, it's minor. Up to the 3rd chord, it's a B, it's minor. Up to the C, it's major. On up to the D, it's major. Up to the E, it's minor. The F sharp is minor, minor 10th. That's why I just called it a minor here. And since we're not worried about the 5th scale degree, we're just calling it a minor 10th. The chord is a diminished chord, and the chord is designated as a minor 7 flat 5, as opposed to a full diminished, but that's not important for this lesson. But all we need to know is the 7th scale degree is a minor 10th. And then back to the 1 again, a major. And you can finger it with 2 and 3, or 2 and 4, or 1 and 3, or whatever you feel more comfortable with. And then when you're going from major to minor, say from the 1 to the 7, you can finger it with 1 and 3 or 1 and 4. 2 and 3 or 2 and 4, or 1 and 3, but it lays just, this finger is the longest finger, so it just lays perfectly like that. So to play the whole scale in tenths, you're going to use this formula that we just talked about. Whole step, half step, whole step, half step. So it would be like this. Okay. And then if you want to just use 2 and 4 instead of 2 and 3, you can do it that way. Let me show you that. So, I probably go to default to 2 and 4s because down there, up here, it's pretty good. That's pretty comfortable. All right, but down here, that's pretty comfortable. But down here, that's a little uncomfortable. And that's pretty uncomfortable. I mean, I can do it, but. So it's either or, and you can mix it up. Okay. And then if you want to move it to another key, you can go to C